Bouncy. That is the word I would use to describe Zenless Zone Zero, and it is mesmerizing. And I'm not just talking about the eccentric cast and intense battles. From the character cinematics to the UI, every moment of this game is packed with movement and bursting with life. I've taken a closer look at what makes the visuals of ZZZ so special and discovered a level of detail that just blows my mind. So thanks for sponsoring this video, Zenless Zone Zero. To celebrate 50 million downloads, ZZZ is giving players 1,600 polychrome, which is enough for 10 pulls. The crazy details start before your first battle and before you meet a single character. From the login screen, you are ushered into ZZZ's world. This is not your average loading screen. Somehow, the game's devs made the experience of waiting for an update captivating. This nostalgic CRT TV will play a series of commercials for fake products and shows in the game, as well as real announcements for the player. The real announcements are given priority and are helpful, of course, but I was especially drawn in by the commercials for in-universe entertainment. If you watch long enough, you'll see ads for TV shows, products, and even propaganda, all complete with voice acting, animation, and logos made just to entertain you and give you a sense of the world. Yes, I'll join the HIA, sign me up! The world of Zenless Zone Zero is a scary one, where any person unlucky enough to find themselves in a hollow will surely be attacked by monsters called ethereals, or worse, succumb to ether and become a monster themselves. But that doesn't mean the game is dreary. Quite the opposite. ZZZ is a light-hearted, fun game with an approachable and brilliant world. I found myself looking at all these video covers in the rental store or excellently designed posters that I wouldn't mind hanging up in my own room. In the main office, you'll catch Wise playing on his handheld console, and is that Pac-Man? The designers didn't need to create an entire gameplay animation for this guy, but they did anyway, and I respect that. Wow, this guy sucks. Both protagonists have their own room, and the way they are decorated and organized reflects their personality. I chose to play as Belle, and her room is much messier than her brother's. She's just like me for real. If you've been playing for a while and want to review the story chapters you've completed, the chapter select isn't a simple menu. They are represented as a VHS tape collection, each one featuring a unique cover. When you open them up, you're treated to this lovely artwork complete with parallax and a depth of field effect. UI design of this caliber is such a rare treat. So many games treat menu design as an afterthought, but here it doesn't just have good UX design. The colors and textures themselves match the theme of the world in such a tactile way. As a design nerd myself, I couldn't help but be delighted by the subtle timing of the transitions or the way the dialogue input is selected. I could go on and on about the static elements in this game, but let's move on to my favorite thing about Zenless Zone Zero, the cutscene animation. I have always liked anime-style games, but despite being such a popular medium, anime hasn't always translated well into 3D. Anime is expressive and malleable in a way that's difficult to replicate with 3D models, and if it's not done just right, it can look, well, cheap. But Zenless Zone Zero doesn't only do 3D anime well, it kicks it up a notch. The models look like they stepped right off an animation cell, but each scene is so dynamic. This is accomplished in a variety of ways that come together to make pure magic. First, and perhaps most notably, is this pliability the characters have that lets them stretch, squash, and smear. This animation technique is common in cartoons, but rarely seen in 3D games since it requires deforming the model. The designers did distort the models though, and the results are captivating. Everyone has this bounciness to them which gives the movement a lot of inertia and energy. This is most notable with the bang boos, which wobble so much they look a bit like jello encased in a rabbit-shaped suit. But it goes beyond just that. Take this scene, for instance. Watch this woman look back and forth. Did you catch that? In just a few frames, her face stretches when she turns left and right, which both adds fluidity to the animation, but also makes her look more frantic. This elasticity can be seen all over, but not always, so when characters are still, that difference really makes them stand out. Like, further in this cutscene, Miyabi counters an attack with barely any movement at all. Compared to the stretchy, nervous movement of the other woman, Miyabi's stillness shows she's cool, collected, and in complete control. Scenes like this show the dev team put a lot of thought and care into their animations, and I am eating it up. Second, we need to talk about the camera work. One of the best things about working in 3D is the camera can wrap around characters in ways that would be impossible in real life and extremely difficult in 2D. ZZZ takes full advantage of the medium, using the camera to set up cinematic compositions and follow the action. Next time you're playing, note the camera movements and angles. It is impressive how much thought they put into these compositions. Lastly are the hand-drawn 2D effects. These dramatic touches mix fantastically well with the 3D effects to give cutscenes a real anime feel. These are added as speedline smears to rapid action or full paintovers that only last a few frames. It's such a treat for the eyes. Of course, not every cutscene in ZZZ looks like a feature film, but I found what they did with their other, simpler cutscenes to be very clever. There are cutscenes that take the classic visual novel approach but give it a bit of a spin. Instead of being static, these talking head sequences make good use of their 3D models. They don't just talk, but they blink and gesture, which keeps these chatting segments from getting stale. Oh, and on top of that, there's no reading required since they're fully voiced. I really appreciate that when you have a dialogue option to choose from, Belle or Wise say the line out loud. It helps the main characters feel like actual characters in the world and not just placeholder for me, the player. And if you missed something important because your cat just knocked everything off the table and stood on your keyboard, all is not lost. You can revisit the dialogue you just missed here and replay back any voice line too. But that's not all. You know how visual novels will treat you to a rare artwork of a special moment, usually known as a CG? Well, imagine that, but like dozens of CGs, all back to back and shown in sequence. Yep, that's right, comics. These comic cutscenes show off full-color artwork and dynamic page layouts, and as someone who has made comics before, the ZZZ artists are so insane for making all this quality art that will only be seen for like 5 seconds. These scenes are fully voiced as well, and if I didn't mention it yet, the voice acting is top tier. Just like reading a real comic, you can flip back and forth between pages and really soak up the details. If you're in a rush, you can hit the skip button anytime, for any style of cutscene, and it will show you a short written summary of what happened. What a great feature! A character-driven game would be nothing without its characters, but it's not just the recruitable ones that are lovingly crafted. The main characters, the NPCs, even the enemy ethereals. Everyone feels like a living part of the world. The main characters, Belle and Wise, were actually successful proxies long before you started playing, and it's only due to special circumstances near the beginning of the game that they have to start from scratch. This gives them an unusually competent air for protagonists. They're not fumbling and confused, and they even have a lot of input when it comes to story beats. The sibling you don't choose to play as will also be present throughout the story, and you can even control them at times. Visually, each of the playable agents are distinct, minus Anby and Soldier 11, who I was convinced were the same character at first. Whoops. There are already lots of characters available to get to know and love, all with their distinct designs, personalities, and movesets. And once again, it's the impeccable attention to detail that really makes these characters shine. Take Lycon, for example, a character that is half man, half wolf, and all elegance. Instead of having a beast-like moveset like you might expect, he has the persona of a butler and holds himself in a reserved manner. At rest, he keeps one hand behind his back like a server or ballroom dancer. That hand stays behind his back through most of his moves, but his calm demeanor is betrayed by those brutal kicks. All his movement is so snappy and controlled, except for those floppy ears and tail of his. Here's a few more I'd like to call out. Nicole checking out her sparkly nails and looking at the camera in her intro sequence. Ellen's eye roll when she does her ultimate attack. And Sokaku catching her breath when she comes to a stop. These fine details give the characters so much charm, and I'm really looking forward to every new addition they add to the roster. All of this polish doesn't stop at the setting, animations, and characters, of course. This exact same attention to detail is put into ZZZ's combat, making sure each step a character takes and each hit they dish out feels both powerful and unique from one character to the next. When hitting an enemy, the weapon actually stops for a few frames when it connects with a target. It really gives each hit a lot of weight and impact. It would have been easy to have attacks phase right through enemies with a whack sound effect. That's what most games do. But with just a couple of freeze frames, it really feels like you're connecting with your opponent. On top of that, each character not only has a completely different moveset, but they also have their own idle, running, and sprinting animations. You'll be seeing a lot of each character since a main game mechanic is swapping agents, so I've come to really appreciate the novelty of each character. Chain attacks prompt you to swap to another character for big damage, and while dodging is an option, there's a greater focus on parrying via perfect assists, which swaps in another character to block the attack with a satisfying clash. Not only does it protect your agent, but you're treated to these awesome slow-mos. That's my favorite part of combat for sure. The combat is fast-paced and feels great, and best of all, this can be achieved with streamlined controls, especially great for mobile and controller players. But don't confuse ease of use for simplicity. The efficient use of buttons leaves room for plenty of interesting strategies. For example, Ellen will enter roaming mode after double tapping the dodge button, which in turn augments the next attack she'll do. The bouncy, stretchy nature of the character models comes into play here too. Just look at how delightfully springy Ellen's tail is. I was a little surprised Zenless Zone Zero doesn't have character victory animations, but instead it has something else that I think might be even better. Eliminating the last enemy triggers this beautiful slow-motion sequence with the flashy words "Wipeout" across the screen. The lighting and composition are dazzling, and because the pose of the character and enemies are always different, it's a real treat to admire when basking in your victory. But the best thing about Zenless Zone Zero is that it's already out. If you haven't picked it up yet, download the game through the link in the description below. And if you want to learn more about the behind-the-scenes features of the game, check out this video where I summarized all the most important tidbits from the launch livestream.